Okay, good afternoon all. Okay, I'm very happy to be here as the winner presenter, and I will accompanied by my professor at University of Amsterdam and my colleague from Leiden University. We will present about the situation of academic publishing in Indonesia. I am Anggun Gunawan. I am the lecturer of publishing studies at State Polytechnic of Creative Media in Jakarta. And right now I'm waiting for registering in PhD book studies at Amsterdam University. Maybe we will start next year, starting from 1 February 2026. Okay, my presentation for this winner session, the title is Beyond Metrics, Rethinking Academic Publishing in Indonesia Through Policy and Post-Colonial Lenses. Okay. I will give you the background why this situation, it is so crucial and also so many debates about the scientific publication in Indonesia, and if we compare with the other countries, maybe you cannot find the situation and also the problem about the scientific publication. But here in Indonesia, there are so many debates, there are so many problems faced by the Indonesian academics, how to publish the articles in scientific journals. And the problem started from 2011 when the Indonesian aware about the condition of not only the quantity but also the quality of number of scientific publication in Indonesia, that we were in the only in the rank of 64th, and we compare with our neighbor such as Malaysia, we are left behind from the Malaysia. I can give you about the data here. Between 1996 to 2011, Indonesia just produced about 16,000 scholarly works and ranking in the position of 64th in the world. While Malaysia, our close neighbor, produced more than 75,000 and ranked in the number of 43rd, 43rd globally. As we know that we between Indonesia and Malaysia, there are so many competition, not only in the sport but also in the how to get a good rank for the university and also how to produce the scientific publication. And it makes kind of a wake up call for Indonesian to be run fast. And after that, there are so many regulations implemented by Minister of Education in Indonesia to make a kind of the progression how to maximize and also how to double the quantity of scholarship publication in Indonesia. And from 2012 to 2024, we saw that at least 10 major regulations made by the minister targeting scientific publications, starting with the Minister Muhammad Nuh. And as you know that in the Muhammad Nuh era, we know about the every graduate from the bachelor degree, master degree, and also the PhD student have to publish maybe only one or two article journals before they get the diploma or they get the graduation. That is the kind of how our minister to make a kind of the progression to make our publication become higher and higher over the time. And by doing this regulation, and it also followed by the next minister, Muhammad Nasir, and Muhammad Nasir linked the lecturer allowance and promotion to journal publication. If you want to be the professor, you have to publish at least one the Scopus index journal to be the professor in Indonesia. And if we continue to the next minister, namely the Nadiem Makarim, we know that Nadiem Makarim still implemented such regulation, the same regulation with the Nasir. But we know that in the Nadiem Makarim era, there are so many problems already faced by universities and also the Indonesian scholars, that there are so many problematic cases that make us, there are so many scholars become a kind of they have to put off their degree and also their status as professor and become put off by the minister. By doing this regulation, there are so many positive outcomes. The first, the number of Indonesian publications in international database has increased significantly. But we know that the quantity increase, it's only about the quantity, not the quality. And also, we can show that our universities in Indonesia have climbed in the global ranking. For example, the University of Indonesia, ITB, and also UGM now appear in the QS and also the THE ranking. That is the positive effect and also the made by those regulation. But we know that there are so many drawbacks that happen in Indonesia about that kind of the regulation. For example, we know that nearly about the 17% the papers that trapped in the predatory journal, also paper brokering, it comes from Indonesia. That kind of the cases that happen in Indonesia. And last year, we know that the Budapest International Research and Critics Institute, that kind of the institution that provide a kind of the services for the scholars in Indonesia. If you want to publish in the international journal, we will help you, and you have to pay something, it may be a million rupiahs for get published in the international journal. But the Budapest International Research Institute has the headquarters in the North Sumatra, not in Jakarta as the capital city of Indonesia. That kind of the strange phenomena in Indonesia, that the institution give the services for the all of scholar in Indonesia, but they have the home base in the not the capital city of Indonesia. Okay, and also we face there are so many plagiarism scandals where the faculty members claim the student research as their own. That kind of the problem happened in Indonesia. there are so many professors claim the research from the student, maybe the master student and also the doctoral student as their own. That kind of that kind of lack of integrity in Indonesia publication. And I want to move about what kind of the structural problem about this phenomena. If if we know, I think that the first problem is about the government-funded research in Indonesia usually lasts only 4 or to 6 months. It means that if you get the funding from the government, maybe suggest Bima or something like that, we just have maybe only 4 or 6 months to do the research, and you are pushed to publish in the international journal if you get the maybe 100 million rupiahs funding from the government. That kind of the output that you have to reach out. And we have to compete between how to make a good research publication. At the same time, we also have to run with the budgeting year, because we have to report our research. At the same time, we have also to publish the international journal. That takes so much time to be published in the international journal. And we also know that some universities offer cash incentive, sometimes maybe tens million rupiahs, or maybe, I don't know, the maximize that you can get from your university if you successfully publish in the Q1 or the Q2, maybe more than maybe 30 million rupiahs that you can get as the incentive. And I know that while this encourages productivity, but it also distorts academic values. And the result, researchers and also the academics in Indonesia chase the deadlines, not discoveries. They aim for under review rather than well researched. And universities with questionable practices still benefit from this system, showing weak oversight and lack of the integrity policies. It means that the motivation for the Indonesian scholar just to get the incentive, but not how the research can give the impact and also how the quality of research itself. I want to move to the peer Bourdieu theory. We know that there are so many terminology provided by the Bourdieu theory. The first one is that kind of I know that the scholars from Indonesia, every week we can see there are so many seminars, webinars about how to publish in the Scopus index journal. Every week we can see, and if you compare with the other countries, for example, when I was in the UK for my master degree, it was difficult for me to find a kind of a seminar and also maybe the workshop about how to publish in the international journal. But it happens in Indonesia. There are so many seminar provided by maybe the private institution that help the academic in Indonesia to be published their article in the international journal. And you have to pay maybe some rupiahs, and if you want to kind of maybe the private guidance from the institution, you have to pay more. And also, I see right now there are so many webinar about how to publish the article in the Scopus Index Journal by using the AI, and it works. There are so many scholars in Asia give the testimony that they are already successful to publish their article to international journal by using the AI. That kind of maybe the funny phenomena happen in Indonesia. And I will back to the Bourdieu theory. In the Bourdieu theory, we can define the Indonesian academic field. For the example, the first one, the symbolic capital. come from the recognition by Scopus and Web of Science, or WOS. And the economic capital is the financial incentive per article, that kind of the motivation, what is covered the Indonesian scholars to be published in the international journal, and also the cultural capital. Our own knowledge tradition has less exchange value in the global market. Even we already get the published, there are so many articles right now published in the Scopus, but we cannot exchange the value because the citation, also the H index is still low. That kind of the problem in Indonesia. Okay, that is the what is the latest news from Indonesia. There are 17 lecturers in the Universitas Lambung Mangkurat already put off their status as professor because of the misconduct in publishing the article. That kind of the latest, what is the latest phenomena and also the latest issue that happened in Indonesia. Okay, I will move to last, the last presentation in my slide. If we look at in the post-colonial lens, I think that if we shift to post-colonial perspective, we see something more fundamental, that Indonesian academic publishing still operate under the Western epistemic dominance. It means that I can put the, what is the Scopus priority that made by our government a kind of the Western epistemic dominance. We have to follow what kind of Scopus asks, and there are so many people in Indonesia who want to publish in the Scopus index journal. Our measure of success, if you want to be a good scholar in Indonesia, you have to have as many as possible the articles in the Scopus, and it make a kind of the reputation, a good reputation for you if you have so many publications in the Scopus. And we know that, I think that rather than we follow the global standard, I think that there is a room for the negotiation. Some Indonesian journal has successfully been indexed in Scopus while returning local editorial basis and publishing regionally relevant content such as biodiversity, Islamic studies, and also the local governance. I think that right now we are already successfully to make our internal journal in so many university as the journal index in the Scopus metrics. And I think that the solution for this phenomenon, I think that I can call this the third space of knowledge. We can adopt the international peer review standard, but still speak about the periphery. It's an act resistant and participation at the same time. It means that, yeah, I don't persuade the Indonesian scholars to to obey and also to to kind of to put off the Scopus standard, but we can make a kind of the harmony, and we still accept the Scopus standard, but at the same time we have to promote our own journal, and also we have to make our own tradition in the scientific publication. Okay. To conclude, Indonesian journey in academic publishing has been remarkable for barely visible to globally recognized within a decade. But the next step requires deeper reflection. How do we ensure that our pursuit of excellence does not compromise integrity? How do we value knowledge itself, not just its metrics? And it's time to rethink not only how much we publish, but why and for whom we publish. Thank you very much. Okay, we will move to the next speaker. It will be the Dr. Suryadi. It already appeared in the ring center. Yes, maybe we will have maybe around a half hour, maybe about the 30 minutes. In the end of this presentation, after the third presenter, we will have a Q&A. Sudah Mbak?
Good morning.
Ready is the from as the
Can you all hear me? I hope
yeah.
so.
Hello,
Okay.
good morning, Prof. Lisa.
Thank you, Angun. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to begin by thanking the organizers for giving me the opportunity to present my perspective here today. My contribution takes a more historical angle because let me see first how I can move to the next slide. I don't know how that is possible. Oh, I see. Yeah, okay. So my contribution takes a more historical angle because history is never merely a footnote. It always leaves traces, and as society, we continue to build upon what has come before. This is perhaps most evident in the realms of education and science. Isaac Newton wrote in 1675, and I quote him here: "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants," with which he meant his predecessors. So, reimagining scientific publishing, that is the title of our panel here today. But it focuses on publishing as an act, as a process, as an outcome, and as if it unfolds naturally. But that's not the case. Publishing is shaped by institutions, the publishers themselves. So publishing is never just a mechanical or technical procedure. It is carried out by people who make choices, who decide which manuscripts are worth sharing with the world. So this leads us to the idea of the gatekeeper. Now I have to go to the previous one. This leads us to the idea of the gatekeeper, the person or institution that determines what information is allowed to pass through a wider audience and what is kept back. Gatekeepers, whether consciously or not, shape the flow of knowledge. Their decisions may be driven by commercial interests, professional judgment, social pressure, or even personal bias. The gatekeeper theory is often used to explain how literary trends and cultural influences travel from one country to another. Sometimes this is quite harmless. For instance, now I'll give you the next slide. Quite harmless. For instance, the spread of certain design trends in book publishing, like what we see here, the sprayed edges on the side of many books, and which is a huge trend now in the Netherlands. But gatekeeping can also have far greater consequences. Some themes and ideas cross borders because the gates are open, while others are stopped at the border, gate closed. So, a simple example of this is what you see on the right of the screen: the banning of books with LGBTQ characters in countries such as Russia and many others, even in the USA. In these places, publishers simply won't publish such works. And even in countries where there is no legal restriction, publishers may choose to play it safe, avoiding books that feature gay or lesbian characters. Yet, across the world, there are also courageous publishers who do not step aside, publishers who continue to bring out books with an open mind. And they remind us of a simple truth: publishers hold power. It follows that anyone examining the current scientific and educational landscape cannot ignore the role of publishing houses. We rely on them. They are part of our daily scholarly practice. Think of Pearson, Elsevier, and Wolters Kluwer. For instance, I give you just a small overview. With the exception of Pearson, Elsevier, Wolters Kluwer are originally Dutch firms that now operate globally with international leadership. For the humanities, publishers such as Palgrave, Cambridge University Press, Brill and de Gruyter remains particularly influential. This raises a question. Why do we continue to rely on these companies when publishing research has never been technically easier? Because today we can upload our work to the internet within seconds, and there are countless platforms offering free access to knowledge. And yet, publishers still persist. I think it is because they are more than gatekeepers. They create markets for intellectual work and they carry prestige. For instance, a young scholar seeking to publish a PhD dissertation will almost always prefer to do so with a recognized publisher rather than simply post it online. Open access provides perhaps the clearest proof of this. Open access, as you know, is a model that allows free and unrestricted online access to scholarly outputs. But even here, we as scholars willingly pay substantial fees to established publishers so that our work may carry their imprint. Why do we do this? Because publishers confer recognition and prestige, recognition that stems ultimately from their history. And this is the point of departure for my contribution today. So, our panel is titled, and now I quote it completely, Reimagining Scientific Publishing in Indonesia, Colonial Legacies, Neo-Colonial Pressures, and the Future of Knowledge Equity. My own focus is on colonial legacies to illustrate that history not only shapes today's academic landscape in general, but colonial history in particular continues to influence scholarship in Indonesia. My own research does not address present day Indonesia, I have to say, but the colonial period, when the archipelago was referred to as Dutch East Indies, and it concerns roughly my research the period 1816 to 1920. This research has resulted in a book on the colonial book trade, soon to appear in an English translation. So you see it here on the screen in the Dutch edition, and on the other side you see the English version that will be published by NAS Publishers, NUS Publishers in Singapore, and you can order it already at the Chicago Press website. Okay, so my book examines the role of mechanically printed books in the colony, books produced with movable type and lithography, in contrast to the earlier manuscript culture. So manuscripts, printed books, by contrast, manuscripts, though often beautifully decorated, as you can see here on the screen, were unique and labor intensive. But printed books, by contrast, were cheaper and faster to produce and infinitely reproducible. They enabled mass production, standardized education, and the spread of literacy on a scale that manuscripts never could. In Indonesia, this transformation, and you can see here on the screen a print shop in the early 20th century in Indonesia. In Indonesia, this transformation unfolded during the 19th century. A printing press had been introduced as early as the 17th century already by the trading company VOC, but its use was limited. Europeans largely imported their books, while the local population maintained a thriving manuscript tradition. It was not until the 1830s that a truly dynamic print culture emerged, with both the state press and private publishers entering the scene. The colonial government, through its official press, the Landsdrukkerij, played a dominant role, especially in the field of education. And it was a beautiful building standing in what's now Jakarta, but was then called Batavia. So this is the building of the Landsdrukkerij. This meant, for example, that Indonesian school children had to be taught by the books from the Landsdrukkerij, so they were not taught their own history, for example. but only biblical history, which is not history, and also Dutch and European history, but not Indonesian history. So by 1900, numerous publishers were active across the archipelago, and manuscript culture declined rapidly. Print became synonymous with modernity, while handwritten texts were relegated to the past. Later in the early 20th century, the government launched Balai Pustaka, a publishing house designed to appear local while remaining under colonial control. You can see here the mobile bookshop. I believe I have only a few minutes left, so I have to shorten my presentation a bit. Balai Pustaka lacked academic prestige. It was a company established by the colonial government, but it looked like an Indonesian firm. So the situation around 1920, I would argue, foreshadowed later developments. So even after independence, Dutch firms retained prestige in the Indonesian market until eventually replaced by English language publishers from the UK, the US, Canada, and Australia. So one of my PhD students is now currently completing a dissertation on precisely this subject, the 1950s, and Angun, as we have heard just earlier this morning, is preparing to continue this line of research. So, what I want to state is that prestige is actually very important for publishers. So, in post colonial Indonesia, Dutch and later Anglophone publishers dominated not merely because of the commerce, but because of the authority their names carried. The same dynamic persists today. The global academic market favors English, the language with the broadest reach. Understandably, scholars want their work to be read as widely as possible, but this often means setting aside their native languages, the languages of thought, community, and cultural community. This Anglicization carries consequences. It disadvantages non-native speakers, as well as those who lack access to English language education or translation tools. Just as colonial publishing constrained knowledge production in Indonesia, today global dominance of English excludes many voices too. While English serves as an inclusive lingua franca, it also functions as a barrier. In this sense, we might say we all live in one way or another in an English colony. So language models may have changed this landscape, but that's not my point. My point is that scholarship has always been shaped by forces beyond academia, by commerce, politics, and above all, prestige. So, to conclude, what I see is that Indonesian publishing has been colonized twice, once by the Dutch book industry and a second time by the English language one. So thank you for listening to me. I'm sorry I had to shorten my my piece a bit, but well, I hope you all were able to follow my the line of my talk. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Lisa from Amsterdam. She is the professor of book history at Amsterdam University. And next year, uh, her book uh, titled Print Passage, Colonial Books Culture in the Dutch East Indies. The book told about the book trade during the colonial era in Indonesia or the East Indies will be published by the NUS Press, and you can get the book maybe on February next year. But in the Dutch version, already published by the Dutch uh, publisher. Okay, because we have limited time, I think that it's better for us to move to the last speaker, Dr. Suryadi from Leiden University. Dr. Suryadi, time is yours. Pak Suryadi,
Yeah.
silakan Pak.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, it's clear.
Okay. Thank you very much, Anggun. Sorry for a technical problem I face here. As you asked me, I will talk about the cultural continuities. Oh, sorry. About cultural continuities and disruption, knowledge transmission from oral tradition to academic publishing. Um, actually, this is my reflection about the topic we are discussing today. Uh, Indonesia is a country in between orality and literacy, I think. Uh, we now a good book from the late Professor Atiu from Leiden University, Indonesia antara kelisanan dan keberaksaraan, Indonesia between orality and literacy, where he analyze analyzes the how orality influenced the style of writing of Indonesian people, uh, even among the educated people. So I want to make a reflection about this. Uh, and like Lisa, I also try to go back to the colonial time to understand how this happened in Indonesia. Next slide. Actually, um, we had uh, a literacy tradition, but in limited uh, 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 influence, of course. For example, before the European power arrived in this continent, in this archipelago, we already had some uh, scripts, like we can still see now in many manuscripts preserved in Leiden Library, like in Batak script, in Old Sumatran script, Buginese, Sundanese, and Javanese script. But of course, this was in the only uh, used by noble families, for example, in local in many regions in Indonesia. So um, this kind of manuscripts or this kind of scripts uh, then removed by the invention of a Latin script in the mid of actually in the mid of 18th centuries. Yeah. Next slide, please. But after the influence of Islam arrived in the archipelago, the Jawi manuscripts was founded and then spread for more or less 5 centuries. Yeah. The earliest evidence uh, was found in the a tombstone in Aceh, which is called Minye Tujuh inscription in around the 13th century. Then the Jawi script developed well until it removed by Latin script in the first half of 20th century. Uh, Next slide. So, in my opinion, the emergence of scientific journal or books publishing in the archipelago started after the Latin script spread and introduced by missionaries mission like in Singapore, in Penang, in Batavia, and others regions. Um, I show you here the earliest, one of the earliest um, a book Warnasari, which was published in Batavia in around 1850s. Yeah. And if you want to see the production of book in the early or the late of 19th century until the early of 20th century, you can see the laborious work of Ian Purfoot about early Malay printed books. Yeah, where you can see many kind of books, mostly in Latin script, were published in Singapore, in other places in the archipelago. So I think this was the era where the literacy, print literacy, introduced by West, by European or by Dutch, spread in the archipelago. Uh, from Lisa presentation, we already know how this kind of publication uh, established in Batavia, in many kind of many places in Java, especially like this one of the biggest publishers, Cove and Co. Book Handle in Batavia, for example. But we can find they publisher like this in Bandung, in Surabaya, in Semarang, and other major cities in Java. Also in the state settlements like in Singapore and in Penang. Um, I quote Lisa articles about the number of staff in printing sector in Dutch East Indies in 1885. Uh, Quite many indigenous compare with European and Chinese, but their influence still limited. And I think this um, this was influenced by their capacity, their ability to express their own mind in a kind of writing. Yeah. Okay. Next slide. Oh, sorry. Please move to next slide, please. Mm. Yeah. Here I show you some earlier uh, scientific journal published in Nelas East Indies. This is Tijdschrift van Indische Taal, Land and Volkenkunde, which usually abbreviated TBG, published in 1853 until 1988. Sorry, 80, no, 58. Yeah. This was the one of the very good scientific journals published by Koninklijk Batavia's Genootschap van Kunsten en Wetenschappen, Royal Batavian Society, Arts and Social Science. And Science. The next example, next next slide, please, is Verhandelingen van het Batavia's Genootschap van Kunsten en Wetenschappen, or usually abbreviated VKI. Yeah, VKI. Yeah. Published by Koninklijk Batavia's Genootschap van Kunsten en Wetenschappen, or Lembaga Kebudayaan Indonesia in Batavia. This is also the but different from TBK. This is a series of like monograph. Yeah. The next one is, please move the slide. Task script for uh, Netherlands, India, or TNE, uh, published also in Batavia, but uh, how to say it? Have cooperation with some publisher in Netherlands. This also one characteristic at the time, where some publisher in Batavia work together with their counterpart in Netherlands. Yeah. What I want to say is that there were many uh, association in during the colonial time published the journal like this, uh, like Adreskunde, the geographical association, like for example, people who works in the uh, study law, for example, and many others. Yeah, yeah. So if we see um, the collection of latency library now, for example, still um, uh, preserve this kind of publication. So there were many journal and also book were published during colonial time, and I think we will see more complete through the Lisa book that will be published. Um, but in my opinion, this print literacy introduced by a European, by Dutch, didn't influence the natives intellectual much. Yeah, so only limited. Why this happened? So I want to make a reflection about this. I think the strong orality of Indonesian society uh, strongly influenced this situation. In the colonial social structure of the Dutch East Indies, the white ruling class, or Dutch in this context, who had a long tradition of literacy, built an academic tradition in the colony as in their own country, especially in the form of publishing scientific journals and books. However, such academic tradition has only slightly penetrated the natives intellectual were able to escape the strong orality. Uh, sorry, this is due to the strong oral tradition in the life. Only a handful of or limited natives intellectual were able to escape from this strong orality. So, printed literacy in Latin script, which was introduced by Europeans since the mid of 19th century, was indeed able to increase the number of native literates, but was very unsuccessful in becoming a bridge to transfer Western academic tradition into the native's mind. Intellectually, this severing of the connection between Indonesian mind and the Dutch language caused a great loss, giving rise to a suspicious attitude toward academic and non-academic natives of colonial heritage. Yeah. So as we see now, it is strange. There are many Indonesian uh, people think that what they Dutch wrote in colonial time not true. Yeah. So especially those who very strongly have feeling anti-colonialism. Yeah. So less than 2 decades after the Dutch left Indonesia, the tradition of colonial intellectualism had far decreased among the intellectual in the former colony. This was partly due to the erasure of Dutch from Indonesian, accelerated by Japanese propaganda. So the loss of Dutch language from Indonesian people, I think, uh, brings about how to say it, losing contact or appreciation to the many uh, uh, scholarly research and publication produced during the colonial time. The lack of success in transferring our Western Dutch academic tradition in Indonesia was caused, among other things, by the disruption of early modern communication technology in the 50s and 60s, 1950s and 60s, due to the development of radio, television, film, and others, which give raised the phenomenon of secondary orality in Indonesian society. So when the printed literacy just spread in Indonesia thanks to the Dutch or European uh, help, then the new technology based on hearing and listening appear in the world. So this very uh, gave negative impacts to the development of literacy in Indonesia. The last one, I think modern life today, with the increasingly significant role of digital technology, is increasingly hampering the grounding of academic tradition in Indonesia. Various digital and technology platforms are essentially reinforcing orality in Indonesian society. Indonesians are experiencing what is called the tertiary digital orality. So I saw here how popular the WhatsApp group, uh, 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 another platform, yeah, that make the people lazy to read, to write. So this is I my reflection about the situation of academic publishing in Indonesia today. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Suryadi, for wonderful presentation. And I don't know if we still have time to make kind of a question and answer, the Q&A, maybe one or two. Okay, I'm so sorry because we don't have time for doing Q&A, but you can ask or email and Professor Lisa. And I want to highlight our colonialism, colonialism in the English language era. And I want to also highlight the colonial